السر أدعو في يساري وعساري، أنا عبد صار فخري ضمن فقري واضطراري. قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري، فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري. يا إلهي ومليكي أنت تعلم كيف حالي، وبما قد حل قلبي من هموم واشتغال، فتداركني بلطف منك يا مولى الموالي. يا كريم الوجه غثني قبل أن يفنى اصطباري. قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري، فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري. يا سريع الغوث غوثا منك يدركني سريعا، يهزم العسر ويأتي بالذي أرجو جميعا. يا قريبا يا مجيبا يا سميعا يا عليما، قد تحققت بعجزي وخضوعي وانكساري. قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري، فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري. لم أزل بالباب واقف فارحما ربي وقوفي، وبوادي الفضل عاكف فأدم ربي عكوفي. ولحسن الظن لازم وهو خلي وحليفي، وأنيسي وجليسي طول ليلي ونهاري. قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري، فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري. حاجة في النفس يا رب فاقضها يا خير قاضي، وأرح سري وقلبي من لظاها والشواظي. في سرور وحبور وإذا ما كنت راضي، فالحنا والبسط حالي وشعاري ودثاري. كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري، فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد لي بافتقاري. قد كفاني علم ربي من سؤالي واختياري، فدعائي وابتهالي شاهد.
Yemen. I used to have a home. When I think of it now, I remember what our warm
Sir, could you
I remember
stop
how
the video?
cold wasn't anything to be frightened about.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Everyone again. My name is Maha Nuruddin, and this is our third session of Istighfar with healing, or healing with Istighfar. Thank you, Dr. Isra, for playing the video. قد كفاني ربي. I hope you have followed the English subtitles. Feel free to unmute yourself and to say salams as we are beginning, and we will do the same thing as well when we're ending. So let us know where you're joining us from. I know people are still joining, but we can use this time by greeting each other.
Assalamu alaikum, Hanan from Colorado.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Hanan.
Barakatuh, Hanan. Ayaat from Charlottesville, Virginia.
Hello, assalamu alaikum, Alia, Dr. Alia from Charlottesville. Anyone else from Charlottesville? Well, I want to welcome everyone.
Not joined yet.
Not yet? Okay. Yes, I had to, prayer times come at different hours in different spots, so it might be prayer time for some people. Can we take this time before our resident scholar, Dr. Yamina, begins our third session on healing with Istighfar? Anybody would like to tell us what, give us a brief revision of what you have heard the last three sessions. I'm going to read, one of the sisters sent her reflections. I'm going to read Sister Zahra's, but if anybody else, please go ahead and give us your own understanding, your own reflection of the discussions that we have had previously. And feel free to unmute yourself. As you warm up, maybe I'll go ahead and read. Jazakallah khair, Sister Zahra sent in key points. She took notes of some key points, and she said they are as follows. Preventative practices. Divide one's daily hours to 8 hours of eating and the rest of the 16 hours to fasting. Another point, cut off sugar and replace it with raw honey. Another point, use black seed oil. The following point, replace antibiotics with colloidal silver. The following point is use cupping hijama as a remedy for pain. Again, I'm reading you Sister Zahra Busala's notes from our previous sessions that she kindly sent in. The following point is use essential oils such as lavender oil or rose oil when you feel down. Following point is last, be mindful when we express gratitude with, for example, Bismillah or Alhamdulillah. It is very important to make the intention and have the attention if we want to be in the presence of God. This practice of mindfully intending to be attentive helps us cultivate that awareness of being devoted worshippers. Between brackets, abd, ibad. On the account of this awareness, the term istighfar shifts meaning from apologizing for committing sin to apologizing for being disconnected from our Creator. Therefore, we call onto istighfar when we catch ourselves deviating from the state of ihsan, meaning to worship God as if we see God or to be in God's presence at all times and in all places. Being with God and connecting to God is done through knowing, understanding, experiencing, and acting upon His beautiful names. So those were Sister Zahra Busala's notes, key points from last session. if you would like to share your own notes or key understanding, please go ahead and do that now before we start with our resident scholar, Dr. Yamina. And as a reminder, we had started this series of healing with istighfar, partially because some of our good friends and sisters are experiencing terminal illnesses, different kinds of sicknesses, and our own communities experiencing different challenges, trials, tribulations, and just feeling unwell. So it was time for us to learn from Dr. Yamina this amazing art and skill of healing and understanding istighfar in the light of healing. I think we can go ahead now, Dr. Yamina, if you are ready, inshallah, to start our session.
Okay. Thank you, Maha. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم أنت ربي لا إله إلا أنت، خلقتني وأنا عبدك وأنا على عهدك ووعدك ما استطعت، أعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت، أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء بذنبي فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Inshallah, everyone is getting better and better, and may we learn to be from those who seek forgiveness consciously, knowing what we are doing, inshallah, and may we benefit from the blessings of istighfar. In the very first session, we had shared some hadith, some reports from the Prophet ﷺ, peace and blessings be upon him. And one of those reports, in one of those reports, we are told that the Prophet, peace be upon him, invited his followers, invited us to make istighfar constantly, saying that if anyone constantly seeks forgiveness, makes istighfar, God will appoint for him a way out of every distress and a relief from every anxiety. And God will provide sustenance for him from where he doesn't expect. من حيث لا يحتسب. And also in the Quran, this is to give us a new perspective on istighfar, because usually the classical way or the common way is to understand istighfar first as word that we repeat, not an action that we are taking consciously. Second, we only need to repeat those words when we actually committed a sin, whatever that means. But the greatest and the worst sin that we could commit, as we are told in the Quran, is shirk, associating partners with God, meaning that we are not aware that except from God, nothing and no one can create or give existence or control anything in our life or in the world. And so we miss the biggest chunk, and we are busy with only other minor things that are actually symptoms of that shirki perspective, that living in ghafla, unaware of the reality of the world. And so we are also told in the Quran, in Surah Nuh, which is Surah 71, in ayat 10 and 11, that we are told, and I said, seek forgiveness. قُلْتُ اسْتَغْفِرُوا رَبَّكُمْ. Seek forgiveness from your Rabb, from your sustainer, for truly he is all forgiving. إِنَّهُ كَانَ غَفَّارًا. And in 11, he will shower you with heavenly blessings abundantly. And this ayah is mentioned by Ali ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh, when it is reported that he was sitting with some companions, and different people would come and ask him for help or for a solution, to tell them something about different things like drought, not having enough wealth, not having children, for sickness, and each time he will say, go and make istighfar, istaghfiru rabbak. Seek forgiveness from your rabb, from your sustainer. And when they asked him, so how is it all? And he recites these two ayats. And in Surah Hud, which is Surah 11, ayah 3, we are told, seek forgiveness, again, istaghfiru rabbakum, seek forgiveness from your sustainer, from your Rabb, and turn to him in repentance. ثُمَّ تُوبُوا إِلَيْهِ, that he may grant you good enjoyment for a term appointed, and bestow his abounding grace to everyone who has merit. But if you turn away, Tawbah is turning towards God, but if you don't do that and turn away from him, then I fear for you the torment of a great day. Subhanallah. So istighfar has many other connotations that we are not acquainted with. So it is something that is a remedy, a cure for all kinds of distress, and a relief to every anxiety, and a gate to sustenance and abundance and good enjoyment, as we are told also in the ayah. Mata'an hasana. So when we first started last Friday and repeated again last week, one of the focus point was being aware. And being aware of what? It was being aware that my perception of the world, my perception of reality is not necessarily the only perception. There are other ways. And one other way is the way that we are taught in the Quran, and that the Prophet ﷺ teaches us, the way he lived, the way all the prophets of God lived. And since God is the creator, he is the only one who knows the meaning and the purpose of his creation. So he's the only one who can hand us the true map to get to the treasure. The treasure here is the meaning and the purpose of life. Because without meaning and purpose, even the greatest achievements, even the best, what thing may feel like the best things, when we pause, we realize if it is meaningless, if there is no after death, and since death can happen anytime, since we are always, we only live in the now, since there is no warranty about tomorrow, then everything becomes meaningless, and therefore without true value. And lo and behold, we have been created with a deep longing for lasting meaning and purpose. And without that lasting meaning and purpose, we cannot, the human heart cannot find peace, cannot be at ease, cannot find satisfaction. That's why we are told, أَلَا بِذِكْرِ اللَّهِ تَطْمَئِنَّ الْقُلُوبُ. Only with the remembrance of God does the human heart find satisfaction. Because anything else, anything that is not connected to God, not connected to eternity, is transient, temporary, and therefore valueless, has no value, cannot help us, and leaves us living in a in a void, in a vacuum of meaninglessness, of purposelessness. And that's why we have been created with this longing for meaning and purpose. That lastingness is what matters. Now, in the Quran, we are taught this new way of looking at things as signifying meanings. They have meaning, they are messengers from beyond, from God. They are ayat, bearing messages from beyond. These messages are special messages for us that makes our life worth living, that make our life meaningful and purposeful. And when we are not aware, we can, I'm not talking about the information, but if this information has not been internalized, if it has not become knowledge, and that knowledge has not been internalized to become iman, if we don't know truly who God is, if we had not experienced and tasted his attributes and his qualities, his beautiful names, then it feels like life is somehow there is some darkness, and so we are afraid of questioning anything. We are afraid of even pausing and slowing down in our life, because that will bring us face to face with what feels like reality. The reality of ghafla is the darkness of meaninglessness and purposelessness, that life is in vain, and what comes with that is fear and anxiety, and especially fear of death that can happen anytime. Deep down we know that, even when we are ignoring it and running away from it. The alternative that the Quran, that we are taught in the Quran, is everything has meaning, has purpose, everything is light. The light is, you know, when there is a darkness, you put the light on and lo and behold, you see what's in the room, you see everything as it is. And we have a destination in this life, and this destination transcends this temporary world. Someone also told that like the journey is tailored for each one of us. That's Allah's rahmah and compassion. Each one of us is being taken care of individually. And so in this path, there is no objection or rejection of what happens, because we become aware that whatever happens, happens with purpose and meaning and rahmah and loving care, and that we are the honored guest of this wonderful, this amazing, powerful, all-knowing, compassionate host. Whereas when we are in ghafla, in that darkness of meaninglessness, even when we claim to be Muslim, because just we found ourselves in a Muslim society, but actually we have not learned what it means. We're just not denying God, but not denying the existence of God has nothing to do with believing in him and knowing him and loving him and living in his presence. That requires training and effort and reflection. That's why we were sent the Quran, we were sent the Prophet, and we are sent the creation every day. Nothing is created in vain without purpose. They are all there to fulfill a purpose. Everything around us is teaching us about God. God is making himself known to us because we need it. He does not need it. We need it. And so when we are not aware of the purpose, it feels that we are okay, but whenever there is a crisis, whenever something we don't like happened to us, we feel like a victim, like something randomly befell us, and now what are we going to do with it? Because we want to cultivate this illusion when we are in ghafla that we are in control. And we try very hard to be in control, and we establish those routine that gives us a sense, a fake sense of control. And when something happens, when suddenly we are very ill or in times of crisis, suddenly it feels like, oh, I lost control now, and it may feel like now I need the help of God. But we want to realize that we are never in control. Always, all the time, someone else is in control. And so we need to be remembering him and thanking him and appreciating his being in control and taking care of everything, including our breathing and hearing and seeing and speaking and everything else. Living with that awareness will bring lots of meaning and light and ease in our life and peace. And when we forget that reality, then we make istighfar, we will remember and come back, and that's the time for istighfar, seeking for forgiveness. So in order to be able to seek for forgiveness, we already need to know the difference between these two. We need to already be acquainted or familiarize ourselves with being in that state of remembering God. Like the Prophet ﷺ, he was always in remembrance of God. And when something happened, he said it was very small intervals, and he said he felt like a veil or a fog on his heart, and he practiced istighfar. He sought forgiveness from God, and he said he did it 70 times, 100 times a day. It means he did it so often that he never stayed long away from that remembrance. So following up on last time, we can make istighfar when we realize our misperception. So it means I'm already familiar with remembrance, and when I forget, then I make istighfar for that. So making istighfar for forgetting that, like everything else, illness, for instance, because the example was illness, illness is also created with purpose, with meaning, with rahmah. Of course, before this, I need to first have the training of realizing that everything, things that we love and like, or things that we don't notice, like our breathing, plants around us, the air that we take for granted, the water, the food, they are all created with purpose, with meaning, to reflect wajh Allah, to reflect the countenance of God, the face of God that looks to his beautiful names, that look to eternity, that look to akhirah. That's why we're told in the Quran, for instance, فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ. Let human being look at his food. And then it carries on how we grow the food for you. All this مَتَاعًا لَكُمْ وَلِأَنْعَامِكُمْ, as an enjoyment for you and your animals. So, and we seldom reflect about that. Once we become acquainted with this new way of living in remembrance of God, meaning not I shut myself in a dark room and say, I need to remember God, I need to remember God. It's not about forcing ourselves. It's on the contrary, it's wherever we look, there is wajh Allah. There is the manifestation, the reflection of the beautiful names of God. So I need to learn to reflect and see how things are ayat. They are signs, signposts, they are messengers from God, bearing messages about God, about his beautiful names, and realizing that he's making himself known to us through all his creation. Once we are, this becomes our way of being, and everything, instead of taking me away from God, will, on the contrary, remind me of God. So it becomes easy to remember God and to glorify God together with his creation, because as we are told in the Quran repeatedly, they are glorifying God. They are saying, La ilaha illallah. There is no God except God. There is no provider except God. There is no healer except God. There is no giver of life except God. So once we become aware of this is the remembrance part, then we will also learn that, for instance, crisis, things that we dislike, and we talked about it last time, that we are made to dislike those things. That's a very important difference. Then, for instance, illness is also created, and it is created with purpose, with meaning, with rahmah, with loving care. So we make istighfar that we are, we are not what we thought, like poor, helpless victims of this illness, some random illness or other whatever hardship, but instead we are the guests of this compassionate, this wise, this all-powerful, this munificent, generous host of ours, this our rabb. Again, it is important to realize that the word remember assumes that we already know something. If we don't know anything, if we have not done any work, what shall I remember? So when we are in a state of ghafla, we cannot realize how illness or any tribulation or any hardship is a meaningful messenger from our merciful host, our merciful sustainer. So when we are in ghafla, we are stuck in the feeling of disliking, because it feels like it's my dislike. It is me who dislike it, and I dislike it. Why is it here? As if it means I'm rejecting it. It should not be here. Whereas when I come back to reality, if I truly I am acquainted with the reality, and I make istighfar and I remember something that I already know, then I remember that I am made to dislike it. I have no like or dislike from my own. Whoever is creating me right now, whoever is making me breathe, whoever is making my heart beat, whoever is making me see and think and understand and speak, is the one who is making me like health and dislike difficulty, dislike illness, and dislike illness in the sense of we want to get out of that state, and we see health as a wholesome, something to seek. And this is a huge difference. One is disconnected from rabb, it's all about me. And the second one, there is a connection. It's a different perspective and therefore a different perception. So istighfar, genuine, true istighfar, requires awareness of this situation. And that's why we make the intention. It requires intention to adjust our perspective and to let go of our misperceptions and to be attentive to what's going on. Remember, awareness is about intention attention, being attentive, and then the resulting hand, the resulting way of being in the presence of whatever we are attentive to. So, yeah, so when we make conscious istighfar, we realize that, yes, we don't like illness. When it befalls us, we strive to recover our health. However, this does not mean that illness fulfills no purpose. It does not mean that it is meaningless. And it's not easy to see this when we are still in ghafla. If we have never done the work to see the world in a new way, in connection with our rabb, so that God is not only someone that we do not deny, but someone that we know, we're acquainted with his beautiful names, someone that we feel close. And the more we know God with his beautiful names, we are going to feel a surge of appreciation, of praise, hamd, and of love. That's why after ma'rifatullah comes muhabbatullah. The more we know God, the more we will love God, because we are created to love and appreciate what the source of whatever we long for, and the one who takes care of our needs in such an effortless, such a beautiful way. So just because we dislike illness, it doesn't mean that it has no purpose. Well, when we are in ghafla, it's not easy to say this, because it seems to us when we are in ghafla that we exist on our own. However much we are not denying God, somehow it feels that we exist independently, separately, and we are somehow self-independent and somehow in control, as I had mentioned. And then suddenly, with the advent of this illness, it seems like suddenly I lost the control. I only lost the illusion of my control has been shattered. That's all. In reality, I don't have control. And that's why we feel like we need help from God only when things are out of control. But is this true? Is this true? Are we ever in control of our life? Do we need God's help only in time of crisis, in time of serious illness? I mean, clearly that's not the truth. That's the illusion of ghafla, of us when we are in a state of disconnection with the reality, with God, with our reality of being sustained. Because in that ghafla, it feels like we are not attentive to how we are sustained, so it feels we take it for granted as though it's just happening.
Okay, let's emphasize this point, Yamina, because it seems significant. You asked a question. I know it's a rhetorical question, but let's actually pause it as a question to see if people are in sync with this. Are we all in control?
Yes.
Even during our health periods and our happy times, are we in control? And just because Dr. Yamina said we're not, the expectation is not for you to say no, we're not, no or yes. Really think about it and see.
Yeah, we need to reflect, and it has to become our own reality, not someone else is saying it to us. I mean, yes, we are told that in the Quran as a map, but this map is a treasure map. The treasure map is not the treasure. I only It's only when I use the treasure map that I can get the treasure. So the treasure here is to find who is in control. I have to reflect, to use this and come to that conclusion myself.
Because it is a big departure. The fact that we are not in control and this is not bad is actually a big departure from conventional cultural mores. And maybe somebody help me get updated. As a young mom, I don't know if this is still the case for young moms. We have Tasnia, we have Sarah, and I mean moms of young children, and Isra. As a young mom myself, the word be in control or being in control was very common. I don't know if other people here are, have heard that, but it was said a lot in schools, in moms meetings, in sports practices. And I used to feel really pressured because the phrase was a bit intimidating, and also it used to used to make me think, was I in control or out of control or what? I used to find it a negative pressure. But that's just me. However, people who were in control were actually on a power trip, and people thought, in the American culture, it's perceived to be very positive to be in control. And even in Egypt, there is a new word that when I was growing up as a little girl, I wasn't familiar with it, but they even have a new slang for being in control, and it's a command word, سيطر, being يعني مسيطر على الموقف, to be in control. So here we are, Dr. Yamina saying, but we're not in control. So is this something, is there a conflict in our consciousness between the pressure or what we're telling ourselves or what we are imagining, or what we're even pining? Some of us may be always searching to be in control. Is this, so now we're saying this is an illusion, and we're just deluding ourselves. So what do you want to shall we hear some feedback? Because as we said in the previous two sessions, these are building blocks, and we want each block to be firm. So if somebody is not, stable, or if one block is a little wobbly, then it's very difficult to build something meaningful and sturdy, and gives us that momentum and that energy, inertia or something. There's another word where you can go back and depend on this as resourceful. So feel free to chime in. I don't want to put anybody under the spot, but if Yasmin is with us, or if anybody who's very successful professionally, or who tends to be assertive, and I want to say in control actually of her game or his game, what do you think of this? That this is a delusional state of thinking, Yamina? It's a delusional attitude, or how would you describe it?
It's an illusion.
Yes, but I mean, Yamina, are you familiar that this is considered really positive in the American culture to be in control?
I will mention the difference, what we need and what we think we need. But first, let's hear if there is anyone who wants to share anything.
I can share.
Yeah, I can share too.
Me too. Go ahead.
Sister Zahra, please go ahead.
Okay. As a mom, I have young kids, and like, you know, as a mom, you want your kids to go on your schedule. You want them to do their school work. You want them to do your work, and you want to put them in a schedule, but they are kids. They want to play. They want to have free time. They want to enjoy themselves playing. So, you know, before I was like stressed out. I want them to go my way, and I always say, okay, I am in charge. You need to listen. I am the mom. You need to listen, and this and that. Then suddenly I start to watch myself and to watch what I'm saying, and I say, Subhanallah, I am not in control. Why I'm saying this? And then I just say, Ya Allah, Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Mu'een, help me, guide them, let them, you know, listen and follow what is best for them. And once I realized this, I felt like a kind of relief. That stress, that thing that was like too heavy on my shoulder, I just made this dua and I stepped back and I let it go. And really, it's such a relief when you feel that there is a power that's in control, and you're not in control. You can do your part and just step back and wait. Step back with dua. That's what I want to share.
Thank you, Sister Zahra. Anybody else would like to share?
Yeah, I'll share. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. So I had anxiety over this, okay? Because people would tell me like control your house, control your kids, control, and I you know, just control your situation, and it gave me so much anxiety. Like I was like, I don't know how, you know, I just don't know how. And then there was a time when what I did was I looked for the meaning. What does it mean to have control over something or someone? And I was like what? So, you know, because I sat in philosophy classes or whatever. So when I read it, and this is way before, like, you know, I actually started reflecting on things and like that. It meant having, so control over something means having power or influence over something, someone, and making them take a life in your direction and the way you want things to be done. And I really thought about that. I was like, having the power to make someone do something. I was like, there's no way. There's no way I could do that. And I think once I realized that, that's when my anxiety, I think, got lower, and I started to tune out people who started saying, control your house. And so, you know, that's my little feedback. Thank you.
Samina, I'm curious, did this happen here or in Egypt?
Yeah, the control over was in Egypt, but when I got here, I started to research what that means, you know. But yeah, in Egypt, they would tell me to have control.
Thank you for being honest.
Yeah,
Thank you, because I think I have a similar experience to yours. I felt really pressured and pushed to be in control, and I would always question in my own head, you know, whether I was in control, but it wasn't in the level that Yamina is addressing. Dr. Yamina is talking about a relationship with God, and in my case, my anxiety was in relationship with the physical environment, and especially with kids' schedules and all of that, and behavior and all of that. So we're taking it a few notches higher that Dr. Yamina is talking about.
But they are related.
And you're going to tell us how they're related?
I mean, normally when we are in disconnection, I don't want to keep using ghafla because we don't really know what it is. It means I am not aware of my connection with God. I take God for granted, and I take what I think is my belief in God, my iman, for granted. I never did much work on it. I may have acquired or accumulated information, but information is not doing the work. Of course, we need information. That information needs to be internalized and digested into knowledge. And that knowledge, when we live with it, then it is a gift that it will be transformed into iman. And we start knowing God and acting accordingly, living accordingly. So when we are not in that state, it feels like I need to be in control. I need to be in control. But when I wake up from that illusion, when I become more and more aware as God as my rabb is the one who is sustaining me in life right now, who is sustaining my breathing, my seeing, my everything right here and now, then I realize that he's already in control. I'm not in control of my life. I'm not in control of my hearing, my seeing, my breathing, but someone is in control. Then it is then that I can realize that, oh, I need things to be in control, not necessarily that I be in control, because I have no control, I have no power, no knowledge, nothing to be in control. What I think I'm controlling are very small things in my life, and even those things, anything can happen anytime, and all my plans and schedules and things can collapse anytime. I can have all these plans and I fall sick and I cannot achieve anything, for instance. Now, once I become aware that I am not in control, but lo and behold, things are in control. And not only they are in control, but they are in control. The one who is in control is our compassionate rabb. He has power over everything. Then the more I know him, the more I can trust him. And the more I trust him, the more that anxiety to be in control myself will start dissipating. And so,
Yamina, could you go back just that line before? Did you say you needed, there was a connection that I mean the audio, it wasn't clear. I missed something. You need certain things, then you find God to be in control. Can you go?
I look at myself and I find that I am not in control of my breathing, my seeing, my hearing, but lo and behold, they are all, everything is under control, everything is being sustained, everything is being taken care of. The more I know God as my rabb, as my sustainer here and now, the more I can trust him. And the more I trust him, then I feel that my need for things to be in control is being satisfied in a way much better than if I had to be in control. And as I trust him, then my anxiety on wanting to be in control, thinking that I have to be the one in control, start dissipating, start going away. And when I'm doing my part, I am not doing it with the same attitude that I have to do it. I have to make them follow a certain schedule. No, I'm doing it with a more relaxed, more trusting attitude, more surrendering attitude. I do my part and I pray. When I'm doing my part, it is a prayer. When I cannot do anything and stop and pray for the others, it is also a prayer. It is also, in any case, everything, my own need for things to be in control. my powerlessness, my not having the power to control, all of them becomes means to remember the one who is in control, my rabb, my host, my sustainer. And each time I call onto him for help, and I'm so grateful, alhamdulillah, that someone who has the power to be in control is actually in control. I know people who, for instance, are very concerned about something happening to their children. For instance, if they fall or something. Now, even if I keep them next to me, especially when they are young, 24/7, they can still fall. Something can still happen to them in front of you. I know, like, someone, like, we were all together sitting and the child did something, fell, and they had to go to hospital. And it was parents who are very, like, sensitive about the child can't be outside, not away from me. I have to be supervising the child all the time. And that time I felt like Allah is saying, look, you can only supervise as your supervision is limited. You cannot protect the child and stop anything from happening to him or her. And so then we learn to entrust ourselves, our life, and the life of our beloved ones, of everyone, to him. He is the one in control. Even my life, I cannot do anything about it. I don't know when I'm leaving this temporary world. And that's why we say, we are taught in the Quran, فَاللَّهُ خَيْرُ حَافِظًا وَهُوَ أَرْحَمُ الرَّاحِمِينَ. God is the best protector, and he is the most merciful of the merciful. So we entrust everything, ourselves and our beloved ones, to him. It doesn't mean that we become reckless and we don't care, because that's also, we have been given that insight, but we do the same thing without the anxiousness, without feeling like a huge burden on our shoulders, as if we are the creator, the makers, the protectors. Because now we act, but we act in his name, and our action itself reminds us, becomes a prayer, a calling on to God to help us, and a reminder of my powerlessness and my need for help, and therefore a calling on the helper, the protector, the one in control. So my actions become worship, become something that makes me close to God, that makes me know God as the helper, the protector, the one in control.
That's a very beautiful point there. And to be honest, this is one of the things that makes me so excited about religion, about Quran, because it isn't one-sided. It's not like, okay, accept that you are not in control, accept this and do nothing. No, I am to embrace the fact that I'm not in control. And as you said, I need things to be under control. But then when I try to micromanage or try to control, I actually cannot keep anything under control. This is to go with an engagement with the world with hope. It is not victim mentality. So this does, I find it extremely exciting that this surrender is not about victim mentality. It's the opposite of it. It's saying I am going to take responsibility for what I am given. How do I do that? You can be paralyzed if you actually want to take all the responsibility for running the world, or running your little world, or even your little house, or yourself. As you said, no breathing, no seeing, nothing is in my control. And yet, this isn't victim mentality, where the only thing I do in victim mentality is complain. To complain and to say no to life and to things. So it isn't victim mentality. It's so beautiful. We are empowered to actually say, you know what? I don't need to be a victim of my circumstances or what's befalling me or what so and so did to me, and or something, some other shortcoming that I have in me, which is plenty because we are utterly weak. I am going to do my part, my tiny little part, and which she says dua. Actually, it doesn't create anything. Even when you take a step to educate your child or to a step to organize your home or your life, it is a dua. And I will make that dua with hope, and I am going to relinquish control to the one who's perfectly in control and who has the wisdom and the compassion. I think that's just so beautiful. I don't know if I could express it. It's not like one side, it's so kind of fits in with life that we need that surrender, and we also need to take responsibility. So it's really beautiful.
Dr. Isra, how do you practice that? Since you, I mean, for example, with your students, as a mom of a young growing boy, with your responsibilities, how do you practice that surrender while doing what you need to do?
I mean, I can't say I am able to practice it well or to sufficient extent, but to the extent that I can, I, instead of worrying about that, and I am a person who likes to micromanage. I want to, in order to make sure things go right way, I like to give directives and make sure everybody's doing what they're doing. So I can get in that micromanage type person. And with work with the students, for instance, for a long time I used to be worried about the student's responsibility. You know, he didn't show up for the midterm, what's going to happen? If he's going to come up with this excuse, then I'm going to tell him that no, that's not a good excuse. And then only in the recent years I stopped worrying about the student end. You know, I'm teaching this, will the student understand this? Is he writing this just to get the point, or is he actually, you know, understanding what he's writing? A lot of worries, I let them go. I to some extent I still have my issues, but and to the extent that I mean, when I remember that I am not in charge and I'm just an out to do what I can in the best way I can, but it isn't, I am not going to make somebody see, I'm not going to make somebody understand or act in a particular way. It is the same with the child. So to the extent that I remember that, it is actually a very empowering feeling, because then there's a lot of energy I used to lose on worrying about the other end and how things will work out on the other end. And it's beautiful actually to say, like, I am going to do my part and then the rest will be taken care of. And the istighfar, as Dr. Yamina started with, I will constantly ask for forgiveness in the ways in which I fail to do my part, and that is actually very empowering in a good way, not empowering in the sense of being in control, but in a good way, that I am ready to flow with the flow of, you know, God's will. Inshallah.
Thank you. Other friends, if you're interested in sharing some of your thoughts or experiences or questions. Otherwise, go ahead, Sister Tasnia.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
So I really resonated with what Sister Isra had just shared. I think, like, I'm also like a micromanager, and being a teacher of preschoolers and kindergartners, you know, sometimes like I often walk around with this like burden on my shoulders, like, oh, I need to teach these children how to read, so I need to make sure they know all their phonetic sounds. And I found myself often getting frustrated, like when I would do a lesson and it just wasn't like happening, or the result that I was expecting, the outcome was not happening the way I wanted it to happen. And then it came to a point where I think I was kind of like going around micromanaging each of my students, like telling them, you need to do this and you need to do it this time, and like checking up, like, hey, what are you doing? And like, just really letting, I think, the anxiety get to me. So for the past couple of weeks, I've actually been, so I step back, and when I've seen myself getting into that control mode, I've been stepping out of the classroom actually to just take a breather. And subhanAllah, I think for me, like, I don't know, like I've this newfound relationship with like the names of Allah has really kind of transformed the way I've seen things. So I've just been like, when I step out of the classroom, I've just been like calling out to the names of Allah. And I think the two names that I've been calling out the most is An-Nasir and As-Sabur, so the helper and the one who's patient, so that Allah gives me some of that in my heart. And subhanAllah, like every single time that I do that, that I step out, that I ask or I make that small dua, and I come back, I kind of like recede back into the classroom. Like I blend myself to the walls basically. And I realized that me trying to control everything makes things so much worse. I actually get into the way of my students learning. And that when I step back, when I take a breather, when I'm calm, I see, subhanAllah, the students doing the work, that the students are taking out the lessons that I just maybe 30 minutes ago was very like aggressive about, like being like, you need to do this. So again, I have not mastered like how to let go of control, but it's almost like these, like I think going in like, oh, I am the teacher, I am the guide, I am the one who's teaching, yada, yada, yada. But subhanAllah, I think every single day Allah shows me that I am learning so much through my students and through these experiences, and just giving me that lesson of like, when I let go, like things go on, and it goes on much better, subhanAllah. So I just thought I would share that.
Thank you, Sister Tasnia. Dr. Isra alerted my attention that Hanan wanted to speak, and I also invite the sister who's asking a question. Every question is a good question. Every question is a relevant question. Feel free to either write in the chat or to speak. So Hanan, please go ahead. Or anyone else who might be ready. Hanan?
I just want to know, being Egyptian, Maha, I had a different experience than you. I never felt from a young age that I'm in control of anything. I felt and maybe because of having a judge as a dad, I don't know, that two grandparents are also judges. Me being the eldest, so they spoke to me a lot. My mom was not expected to have any other kids, so I don't know. But conversing with always the great uncles and the elderly in my family have always made me know and see that all I need to do is to just do the effort when there are open doors, without expecting that what I want is going to really happen. But just I need to do the effort. Like later on when I grow up in religion classes, and we hit the level of religion classes where they teach you the hadith of the, do you tie your camel when you go inside, or you don't tie your camel? So then the answer came, أعقلها وتدبر. Cannot translate. I'm sorry, I don't like to translate from Arabic. The English, it's a completely different language. So the language of Quran, I don't want to make mistakes. If anybody feels like Dr. Yamina or Maha or Dr. Alia, if you feel like translating from Arabic to English, the hadith of Aqil wa Tadabbur. So I've always felt that. I mean, mom's side was a very privileged family, and I could see it. Thanks to my dad's side being, yeah, privileged family, but they had the opposite from my mom's side. They were very spiritual people, and they always knew and role modeled to us kids. Later on, and my mom was surprised to have 2 more siblings. So after 4 years of just having me. So, they role model to us that we're in control of nothing. And those are people who were in elite positions in the judge system, in the court system, in whatever profession that you want. They were successful people. They were not failures. But different than my mom's family, they were not robotic practitioners of Islam. They were spiritual practitioners of Islam. And so that made me think when I was growing up, when I would socialize more with my mom's family, because of that being busy all the time with what is equivalent here to being like a Supreme Court judge. He barely even has any vacations. So mandated that kind of socialization more with the other side of the family. Turkish side, aristocratic side. They frown on speaking Arabic and English. I just want to role model what the environment was. Frown when you do a family gathering and then you use anything besides French. They didn't even know their own Turkish, for heaven's sake. Frown on using any other language, Egyptian or like English as a language. French was always and still is in secular Turkey the aristocratic way to socialize. And then I would compare the two sides, and then my brain, especially when I was young, was always conflicted, because as soon as one of them, and we have cancer a lot in my mom's family and diabetes and so many killer diseases, as soon as one of them ends up having one of those serious illnesses, the opposite starts happening. All of a sudden, it doesn't become robotic practice of Islam, and then spirituality enters, and then they remember they're not in control of nothing. So I kind of had a conflicting upbringing, but the dad side was more dominant. I've never felt, despite before paralysis, my position and status in my country was elite from 2 families, rich from 2 families, everything that people think they can make happiness. And I've never felt being in control of anything, ever.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So now we want to learn to do that in a mindful way, being aware, intending to practice this. And the question that Maha was asking is how, or someone else maybe, how do we let go of control? And of course, the short answer is by keeping in mind who is truly in control. And of course, to keep in mind this, to be aware, we need to first to become aware who is in control. And then we need to maintain this awareness through remembrance, dhikr, as we are told in tadhakkur, we are taught in the Quran. The first step, though, to become aware of who is truly in control needs reflection, contemplation, meditation, whatever all the words that are used in the Quran, tafakkur, tadabbur, ta'aqqul. And the first step is, in order to find out, to witness, to experience, to taste the one who is in control with certainty, without any doubt, is through our own not being in control. And we can do something at the end if we have time, inshallah. The more I realize, for instance, that I am breathing, and actually I have no control over my breathing. I am made to breathe. My heart is beating, it is made to beat. Then I realize that truly I witness here and now, I make shahada that I am not the one doing this. Someone is giving life to me. Someone is making my heart beat. That one is the only living one. He is the only one who makes everything living. He is al-Hayy and al-Muhyi.
Dr. Yamina, your video is off in case you're...
Yeah. Okay. So the more I practice this reflection, the more I practice this shahada, the more I start knowing God as my rabb, as the sustainer who is in control of everything, Malik al-Mulk, the one who has dominion over everything, which one of the meaning is being in control. And then it becomes clear then that it is an illusion. It was an illusion. Then I look back at the past, and whatever I thought I was doing, I realized that it was an illusion, a misperception that I had in ghafla. And in ghafla, again, it feels like I need to be in control. But when, after reflecting, after knowing God as my rabb here and now, after practicing and performing the shahada actively through reflection, then I realized that in reality, I am not in control. I do not have even control over my own life. But at the same time, everything is under control. My life is under control. The control of not my control, but the control of my rabb, the one, the provider, the sustainer, the knowing, all-powerful, all-compassionate God. So everything my need to have things under control is already met, and it's met in a much nicer, beautiful way. And then now the more I know him, the more I trust him, the more that anxiety that was associated with my trying hard to be in control when I could not even hold things together, I start calming down, and that anxiety starts disappearing, and that unseen illusory burden that I had also, I am delivered from that burden. So from within the illusion of self-dependence, coming back to illness or any adversity, any hardship, appears to be bad and meaningless. And this perception of illness distracts us from the many possible purposes and meanings of illness, especially those that look to God, to the beautiful names of God, that looks to eternity, to akhirah, to paradise. Now, how illness is an ayah, is a messenger to the beautiful names of God, is something that we learn when we get out, shift from ghafla, from disconnectedness, to working on being aware of the reality, not running away and avoiding it. And that shift is done through istighfar. The more aware, the more we will feel the need for istighfar, because we realize how delusional we are when we are away, when we forget the reality. And that's when we start learning to interact with our illness or anything that disturbs us in our life. The feeling that comes with it is a messenger from God, bearing beautiful messages, and especially messages that look to the beautiful names of God. And that illness, those difficult situations with those feelings, they prepare us for our everlasting life, because we are not here to stay here. We are here on a journey, and the journey is only temporary. And the truth is that we are not self-sufficient. When we realize this again and again, this is very important. This is where the shift is going to happen. This is where the breakthrough is going to happen, from ghafla to starting to realize our connectedness and realize suddenly that we don't have to bear this illusory burdens and try to be in control when we can't even. It's when we realize and we become certain that we are not self-sufficient at any time, and that even something as basic as breathing, seeing, hearing, these things are beyond our control. And the life that we imagine to be ours, that we take for granted, is actually hangs, how do you say, by a thin thread. I don't know, I think you say that in Arabic, but I don't know in English. And we're constantly a breath away from death, actually. So when we reflect and we become acquainted with this reality, then we can remember this reality. When we realize that we forgot, we make istighfar and remember again. We cannot remember something that we don't know. And remembering is something that is again and again emphasized in the Quran. So
if you don't know it, how do you get to know it?
If we don't know it, then we have to learn to know it. And that's why I'm giving all these details.
Okay, let's pause here for a second.
Yeah. And these details are not the whole thing. These details are only like whetting our appetites so that people feel the need to learn this path.
Sister Zahra wants to say something about this, I think.
Who?
Sister Zahra wants to say something about this.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just what Sister Yamina has been explaining, like her last point about we have to come to that, point when we know with certainty that we are not self-sufficient. So my question is, if we are meant to accept and surrender, then why are we made to dislike things? And in our case, for example, death or illness.
Very good question. I'll come there, inshallah. Yeah, very good question. Thank you, Zahra. So what was I talking about? Yeah, we said we are totally dependent on our sustainer, our rabb, sustaining us and giving us life and sight and hearing and healing and everything here and now. Here and now is very important. So when we are aware, when we become aware of this, we become aware, for instance, that we love health. We like health, we love health. Because that's how we are being made. That's how we are created. And so it means we are made to like and love health and seek it. And we are made to dislike illness. This is very important. And that's, we can see that health is made easy to feel. For instance, illness or the lack of health in any part of our body makes us, even emotionally, not only physical, the lack of health there, we feel it as something that is disturbing, that is making us discomforting. So health is made easy. It is associated, comes with the feeling of ease, the feeling of so much that we take it for granted when we are not aware. But when we are aware and we stay with it and we appreciate it, then we can also appreciate the giver of health, the source of all healing, the shafi, the healer. And we can say, like Ibrahim alayhi salam, he says, like, God is my rabb who has created me, and he's the one who guides me and the one who gives me to eat and drink, who feeds me and gives me to drink. And when I fall ill, he's the one who restores me to health. So we have the need for healing, We are made to long for healing, to seek healing, and He is the healer. Subhanallah, alhamdulillah. So it ends with gratitude to God and praising to God, our rabb, our sustainer. So the relationship between illness and disliking illness and longing for healing, that relationship, the two together, seeking, longing for healing when we are ill, that's an ayah bearing messages from God. And also the pleasure, the joy we feel when we are healed after illness, the pain that we feel in the absence of healing, they are all ayat or bayinat, they are clear ayat that indicate God's most beautiful names. I'll come, for instance, healer, Shafi is only one of them. So the dislike of difficulties, the dislike of adversities, the dislike of illness is given to us so that we realize our need for His healing, for God, for His healing, for His compassion. It's like being a hunger. When we are hungry, we realize we need provision, we need sustenance, and through it we know God as the sustainer, as the provider. And when we are, and it's not like we are hungry and we want to stay there forever. Even people who are trained themselves to make friendship with hunger, after a certain time, they want to eat food. We are made to seek sustenance. And it's the same, the dislike for illness is like a hunger for healing. And through it, we get to know our need for God and for His compassion, for His healing. And the moment we take that desire, that longing for health for granted, when we are not reflecting on its meaning, when we take it for granted, we forget its connection with our Maker, our Creator, who creates us with this need for healing, for health, this longing, this desire for health. And we forget that He is our compassionate Rabb, who creates us with that desire. And it feels like it's me who wants healing. Where are you? Like, this is unfair. It feels. Even when we are not articulating this feeling, this thought, this is how we respond. So it is very important that we reflect on our needs. We find in ourselves a desire for health and a dislike for illness. Illness is like a hunger for healing from one perspective. From another perspective, it also, illness in itself also teaches us other names of God and prepares us for our eternal destination.
Dr. Yamina, if I can jump in here to highlight what you have just said, is mistaken on the assumption that there is a rift between myself, my desires, and my Creator.
When I'm disconnected.
So that misunderstanding, that misfeeling, misperception that I want health, but He wants
as if,
sickness.
Yeah,
as if there's a rift. Whereas He's the one
we imagine it like it feels like a clash between our own will to get well and God's will who gives us the sickness.
And so that we, as you said, we may not explicitly say it, but deep down it is oftentimes hidden that there's a tension between me and my Creator, and we need to revisit that. And I want to connect this to the question that Sister wrote in the chat, a very, very important question. She said, and I'm going to read her text. Assalamu alaikum, sisters. I absolutely love this series. Forgive me as this may have been already discussed, but how can we cultivate an attitude towards istighfar that heals and calms us rather than bringing up only feelings of remorse or sadness about past sins and mistakes. I guess I'm asking how we can use istighfar to calm our anxieties rather than to add to them. And what you said nicely fits in with this question, because the first and primary istighfar that I am supposed to do is to denounce this clash or this misunderstanding, give up, clear myself from this misunderstanding and say, Astaghfirullah, I've been acting heedlessly, that as if you didn't give me this need for ease and for health.
My own will.
Yeah, as if I'm independent on you.
My own want.
My own rabb can be against me. Like, how could my rabb be against me? I couldn't even breathe for a second if my rabb was against me. Like, it can't be. It's a misunderstanding. I am sorry, and I ask forgiveness. So istighfar would fit in here, right? To connect it back to that question.
Yes, and yeah. So when we are in that misperception of being disconnected, of heedlessness, of ghafla, we imagine that we want the healing, and as though, hasha, God opposes us by decreeing sickness, as though God were against us, as you said. And so it seems like he creates unwanted things of which we become like the helpless victims, as though those events were created in vain without meaning and purpose. And this is
punishment, as though we're being punished.
Yeah, or anything else that has no fulfilling meaning. And that's where, when we wake up from this illusion, then it is istighfar. I say astaghfirullah. And astaghfirullah, that is our illusion where we're stuck in ghafla. Astaghfirullah in the sense of, I am sorry, please forgive me for being unaware of the reality, for distorting the reality in a way that became a burden on me, that it became frightening and caused me so much fear and pain and anxiety and distress. And so I say, I'm sorry, please forgive me for being aware of the beautiful reality, of forgetting that you are in control and you are all merciful and all compassionate and all wise. And so I remind myself, and if in last week we said, if I visit someone who is ill, a friend, we remind the other one, if I am not the one who is sick, I remind the one who is undergoing it, that we are always being taken care of, and that even our want, our desire for health, for wellness, is also the want, the desire is a gift from him. And that desire may be fulfilled here, but it may be fulfilled in the hereafter. And even if it's fulfilled here, it's only as a sign that he's the fulfiller, because what we are truly interested in is not that it's fulfilled here for in a temporary life, but that it is fulfilled in the everlasting, eternal akhirah, life after death. And so what matters here is only that we have that certainty that he is the one who is the healer, the fulfiller of well-being, the helper, the compassionate one who takes care of our needs. When we perform istighfar in this way, meaning consciously, knowingly, from the very root of the illness, which is the ghafla, which is the misperception, the distortion of reality, then, as we are told in the hadith, when you make istighfar, it becomes as if you have never committed that sin before. And if I am making a superficial istighfar, it doesn't feel like that. I keep saying astaghfirullah, I keep still feeling guilty and things, because I'm still stuck in that that distorted perception of the world. But here you can see clearly, when I come back of that distortion, I start seeing the world as it is, the reality as it is, as Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh says, then you can see that there is no remnant of the previous attitude, because it's totally a new attitude. And you understand that's how in the Quran we are told, for those who believe and repent and act and do good deeds according to this iman and this توبة الذين آمنوا وتابوا وعملوا صالحا يبدل الله سيئاتهم حسنات. Allah transforms their evil deeds into beautiful hasanat, beautiful deeds, beautiful things that also looks to husn, to the beauty of the asma al-husna, the beautiful names of God. And that transformation, we can witness it when we go through amanu, tabu, amalu salihan. And the amalu salih, before the good deeds, start inside before outside.
Can you say the steps in English, please?
The good deeds it starts inside us. It's an inner action of rectifying our misperceptions.
The 3 steps. Amanu.
Believing, it means I have to know God with his beautiful names. It's a work to do, to believe in God, not just to not deny it. We have to know him in order to believe in him. And then tabu, to come back to God, because we can only come back to God when we know him, when we start seeing the reality as it is, that everything is an ayah, is a messenger from God, including illness, and that including our dislike for illness. It's a need for healing. It's a way that we become aware that we need the healer, and the healer is something that we really appreciate, and we call onto the healer then. But if I am stuck in ghafla, in disconnection, and if I hold on, I dislike illness, then however much I'm calling on healer, there is no organic relationship between the two. And I cannot make true istighfar in that unaware situation, when I'm unaware of what's going on. Things are ad hoc, they are not organically connected. But when we look at it this way, not only they are totally connected, but also we go from a shirki perspective to totally surrendering, tawheed. Everything is from God, and that action is shahada, is testifying to God and to his beautiful names, that he alone is the healer. And also it is worship, and it is a testimony to his beautiful names, to God being the rabb, the only rabb. And
let us pause here. No, please continue your phrase.
I just wanted to mention Alia was mentioning hadith last week. So here, when we do this, we become truly grateful and appreciate God as our Rabb, as the Rabb who takes care of our needs here and now. Through the dislike of illness, I realized that he is the healer, and he's the one who is giving me an appetite for healing, for health. Alhamdulillah. And so back to visiting the friend, so I tie it up to what Alia was asking last week. So if I'm visiting a friend, last week I mentioned about how we visit in a state of ghafla. But now if I'm visiting a friend who is, for instance, gravely ill, and I want to comfort her and help her, then I realize in this situation, now I'm not in ghafla anymore, inshallah, that it is not me who is helping this friend. It is not my need for helping her. I have a need to comfort her, and that need is again like the need for health. It means I am in need of help for myself and for my friends and beloved ones. And I need for comfort for myself and beloved ones. And so that need reminds me of the all-loving, the helping, the compassionate, the all-helping Rabb, our sustainer, that is helping her through me, me through her, and helping us through all kinds of his creation, and also through each other. And I'm filled with, I find myself that the compassion that I feel for my friends is not, I'm not the source of this compassion. When I'm in ghafla, I'm not aware if I'm the source or not. I take it for granted. When I am present, then I realize, and I have made the intention to be present and realize how God is staying with us and sustaining us. I find myself filled with compassion, and that compassion, it's coming from somewhere, not from me. And somehow I am made to feel the urge to help her. And I feel, I acknowledge that I'm being inspired to help. I'm being made to help. And I say, yes, you are the helper. You alone are the helper. I make the shahada. There is no helper but you. In ghafla, it seems like I am helping. No, I am not the helper. I am being made to help. You alone are the helper. There is no helper but God. After realizing this, I intend to help, but in his name, not in my name, in the name of the helping, compassionate Rabb. Bismillah ar-Rahman al-Mu'in, ar-Rahim al-Mu'in. Not in my name. My name, I have nothing to my name. Even my life is not mine. It's only a trust. It can leave me in it. I have nothing to my name except that which is given to me and through me here and now. I can't even hold on to it and stock it for tomorrow. No. So now I understand that, I realize, I witness, I testify that it is his compassion, his helping, his power, his whatever, that reflects through the mirror of my heart and all compassionate hearts. And when we help in the name of the compassionate helper, in the name of the healer, then when we visit the sick, we visit the sick in his name, not in our name. And because even the need to go and visit or to call or to write something, I realize that I find it in myself. And I testify that, yes, you are the helper. This is good news because not only now I can pray for the health of my friends and beloved ones from the compassionate and loving healer and helper, but it's also good news for me. Tomorrow, when I am in need, he is the helper. After this world, I have no idea about akhirah, what will happen. It doesn't matter what will happen. He is the loving, compassionate healer and helper. As long as he's there, everything is fine. So the whole experience of feeling compassion, of praying, of visiting, praying for the needy, the sick, visiting them, and becomes an experience of seeing and experiencing and tasting the beautiful names of God. And this, there is a hadith that says, a surrenderer, a Muslim, but I'm saying a surrenderer because Muslim, capital M, doesn't make much. So here, someone who surrenders the will of God, this is the will of God, surrenders to this reality. A surrenderer who visits his sick sibling, will continue to be in the harvest of paradise until he or she returns back home. And I think the hadith that Alia was referring to is the Qudsi hadith, meaning it's a sacred hadith that God is speaking in the hadith. And there we are told, so where is the hadith? Yeah. Okay, so when we visit the ill or feed the hungry, I'm saying this because the hadith mentioned it, I'm looking at the hadith, feed the hungry or the thirsty or help the needy in the name of God, the compassionate, the merciful, and pray for them and love them in the name of the loving one, the helping one, then we find God with them. And in this hadith, we are told, oh child, so God will say on the day of judgment, sorry, I have to start from the beginning. God will say on the day of judgment, oh child of Adam, I was sick and you did not visit me. He would say, oh my sustainer, oh my rabb, how could I visit you when you are Rabbul Alameen, when you are the sustainer of all worlds? Thereupon God would say, didn't you know that such and such servant of mine was sick, or worshipper of mine was sick, and you did not visit him? And were you not aware that if you had visited him, you would have found me by him? It carries on. O child of Adam, I asked food from you and you did not feed me. And he would say, human being would say, oh my sustainer, my rabb, how could I feed you when you are the sustainer of all worlds, Rabbul Alameen? God says, didn't you know that such and such servant of mine, worshipper of mine, asked food from you and you did not feed him? Were you not aware that if you had fed him, you would have found that with me? O child of Adam, I was thirsty, but you did not give me something to drink. O my Lord, or my sustainer, my rabb, how could I give you a drink when you are the sustainer of all worlds? God will says, did you not know that one of my worshippers, my servants, my ibad, was thirsty, but you did not give him a drink to drink? If you had given him to drink, you would have found its reward with me. So first it says, with the sick, it says, you will find me with him. With food, you say, you will find it with me. And last, it will find your reward with him. So the first one, we cannot explain it in understanding of, you give me something, God will give you a reward. Yes, but the reward has to be organic. I give something in my name, and then I hope, inshallah, I hope that God will give me reward in akhirah. No. If I give in the name of God here, in the giving, I will find the reward of akhirah. My iman, my belief in God, my knowing God will increase, because I will know if I give in his name, I will realize that I'm not the giver, I'm not the helper. He's making me give, he's the giver. He's making me help, he's giving me the need to help, he's the helper. So I am now making the shahada, testifying to his beautiful names, knowing him more than before. My iman, my belief in him is increasing. My iman in akhirah is increasing, because if he is the helper, he is the helper all the time, always, everywhere, here in this world and in akhirah. So now I can see that, yes, I get a taste of my reward in akhirah here and now. Otherwise, it is totally disconnected. There is no organic link between the two. It is only a hope. And I'm not even giving, I did not even learn to give in the name of God. I'm still giving in my name in disconnection from God. God is only something far from me, has nothing to do with me directly. That's why
Formality.
It's like that, yeah. And the name of God that is repeated the most is Rabb. He is the Rabb. He is the one who is giving me the need and the urge to give, to help, to love, to be there for others.
Okay, we will need to pause here and check with Sister Dika Muhammad and see, because she's had questions, and Sister Sarah is welcome to update us on the chat. There has been active, very fruitful discussion going on.
We can take the discussion and comments and stop here, and next time we can start with the contemplation, reflection. I think we won't have time for it now.
Sister Dika, was that clarifying? And then we will, Sister Hanan has her hand up, but we don't want to end the session before we make sure the concept has been clearer, unless you have, if you care, I don't know, she's been having trouble, the internet connections. Sarah, do you want to update us, or Dika on the chat?
Jazakumullah khair, sisters. This is beautiful. I just, can you hear me, inshallah?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, Jazakumullah khair. I just really, subhanAllah, appreciate this series, and I wanted to thank everyone. I just wanted to clarify this point, subhanAllah, about when we are experiencing illness or discomfort or anything or pain, and through a state of ghafla, sometimes we can think of it as a punishment. We can think of it as a form of disconnection from our rabb, that we desire healing, as it was stated, and what we desire, or our rabb, that we desire healing, and our rabb desires illness for us. But when we are truly testifying to Allah's oneness, we see our illness or discomfort as being a way is an inspiration to learn Allah as our healer, the one true healer. Is this correct?
Yes, correct.
Dear
Okay,
sisters,
Jazakumullah
in one of the earlier Receiving Nur discussions, there was a phrase that was used about it that I really liked. And so these, the phrase that was used was that these tribulations or challenges come to us with a special key. And that key is to unlock like a beautiful name of God and connect with it. It's like it's a gift. It's like a high-speed connection gift, because all of our body is concentrating. All of our being is in need now. It's not like a small need that we can ignore. No, we're totally in need. And then this huge gift comes to us to unlock, to get us to akhirah, to connect with our generous rabb. So it's an invitation, a key with an invitation to unlock, and then we choose to accept the invitation and connect, or to just hold on to our anxieties. So I like the idea of invitation and key to unlock the beautiful names of God. So I wanted to share.
Yeah. In the past, we repeatedly said that our needs are the keys to connect to the beautiful names of God. Yeah.
Sister Hanan?
Yes, Maha?
You had a comment, right?
Well, yeah, I did, but Dr. Yamina wants to wrap up, so I don't want to hold her.
Okay. Is there a concept or a point that needs clarification before wrapping up? Because we want each session. Dr. Yamina had explained earlier at the first session that there is a difference between information and wise awareness that can help transform us. So this is not about a dissemination of information and leaving it as information. It's more it's more like, yes, sharing something, but knowledge becomes the tools that we can imbibe and use as transformative. So that's why I like to keep pausing and recapping and also clarifying, because we notice that there is a ton of information that we don't do much with and we can't find use for in our everyday struggles and challenges. So if there is a concept that's a little wobbly, please bring it up now before Dr. Yamina closes our session, and we meet again, inshallah, on Tuesday at 8 for the rest of the month of October. We're meeting Tuesdays and Fridays, discussing this series and healing with istighfar.
Dr. Yamina?
Yes.
You know how in Islam that, yes, we do istighfar, but also similarly, healing methods is, especially on Friday, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad as much as we can. And there is a hadith I cannot narrate in English that you know about this, when the man asked him, how much should I do it? So how the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam answered him. So we have that. We have la hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. We have subhanallah wa bihamdu. And we have inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un every time we are faced with musiba kind of news. So why istighfar? Why concentrate only on the tool of istighfar?
All the others are related. Salat al-Salam is reminding ourselves to follow the path of the Prophet, peace be upon him. So unless I know what his path is, when I say Salatu Wassalam, I am supposed to be renewing my bay'ah, that this is the best path to reach God, and I am renewing my awareness of this truth. So again, I need to first know something, be aware of the path of the Prophet ﷺ.
But my point is, like, you know, yours, they're all related and they are equally important. When we say subhanallah wa bihamdu 100, 200 times, whatever, how many times we can a day, it's related. When we say Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa sallim, it's related. When we say astaghfirullah wa atubu ilayh, however many times we can on daily basis, it's related. Yes. And then finally, the similar with la hawla wa la quwwata illa wa inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. It's all tajdeed, bay'ah, and
following the path of the Prophet is following the path of being grateful to God, praising God, of hamd and istighfar. Istighfar is to realize that I forgot and to come back, remember. Now, istighfar is, for instance, when I say subhanallah, it's part of it is praising God, part of it is istighfar, is remembrance. Right. When I say la ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu min adh-dhalimin, like Yunus alayhi salam, when he said, there is no deity except you, glory be unto you, subhan. You are inni kuntu, I am among the wrongdoers. That is a form of istighfar. So once we understand istighfar, we will see that many of these expressions either come under the category of remembering God, praising Him, knowing Him, being grateful to Him, or under, which is about cultivating that awareness and iman and being present with God. And or it comes under the istighfar, which is, I forgot, I need to come back. So the focus is always on iman, billah, believing in God, which means that I know, knowing God with his beautiful names and attributes as they are reflected in the creation. It means we have to learn to reflect on the creation as ayat, as signposts mirroring the beautiful names of God, the beautiful qualities and attributes of God. And then we need to, at the same time, internalize and integrate this iman, this belief in God, this knowing God through surrender, through Islam, surrendering to the will of God and making peace with what he decrees, with what he creates here and now. And the most significant way that we are taught in the Quran is through expressing and cultivating our gratitude to God through Alhamd. Alhamdulillah means my praise and my gratitude belongs to God alone. This is the path of the Prophet. When I say Salam, I'm reminding myself that this is what the Quran teaches me. This is what the Prophet teaches us. And so once we start living, when our iman is internalized, we find ourselves that our awareness is cultivated, starts increasing, and that's called ihsan, living in the presence of God here and now in gratitude, being grateful. And being grateful and living in his presence become our default way of being. And then when we, from time to time, temporarily forget, then we will be able to feel the difference and catch ourselves and remember and make istighfar. And istighfar is made in different ways. For instance, Sayyidina Ayyub alayhi salam, he says, Rabbi inni masani ad-durru wa anta arhamur rahimin. This is also a form of gratitude and a form of istighfar.
Yeah.
So istighfar is not only the word astaghfirullah. Different situations will, for instance, Rabbi inni dalamtu nafsi faghfir li faghfara lah. Rabbi inni dalamtu nafsi is also a form of istighfar. So let's not stay with just one word. What is important is once being present living in the presence of God, in gratitude, in praise of him alone, becomes our default way of being. Then when we forget temporarily, then we are able to catch ourselves because now we are aware of the difference. And then we remember and we make istighfar, we seek forgiveness, we ask for forgiveness. And all these tools, all these formulas that we are given in the Quran, Salatu wassalam, Astaghfirullah, Subhanallah, all these are tools that only will bear fruits in our life when we know how to use them. We use them and we know how to use them. And their using them is not limited to repeating the words, but the repeating the words is supposed to remind us and bring within us something, an experience that we already have lived, that we have already experienced, that we already have confirmed. They are like treasure maps. These formulas, they're all tools like treasure maps. The treasure is not in the map, but in following the map.
And in addition, the 6 verses of Sakina and the 6 verses of Shifa as tools.
Of course, all of them, the whole Quran, you can say. Why not? Anything, because the whole Quran is to make God making himself known to us. We need that to even, we cannot start, or we can only start to the extent that we know God. But we know God when we apply, when it says, فَلْيَنْظُرِ الْإِنسَانُ إِلَى طَعَامِهِ, when it says, let human being look at his food, then we go and look at our food. When in the Quran we are told it is God who sends water, rain from the sky, it doesn't feel to me like it's God sending anything. It feels water is coming on its own. I have to pause, reflect, and question my perception until I become, yes, I see that it is God who is sending that water. I witness it, I testify it, I experience it. I say, Alhamdulillah, you are the one who sends this. Then that ayah in the Quran, that passage, text in the Quran, that message in the Quran has fulfilled its purpose. And now the purpose has knowing God in new ways through new experiencing, tasting his name in a different way, increasing my iman. My watching the rain becomes worship, becomes a means to be present in his, to live in his presence. My watching becomes testimony, shahada, and worship, and increase my iman in akhirah. That's how it is. So it becomes a means for hamd, a means for Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. This is the message that you brought to us. I am celebrating your message. Yes, I got it. And when I forget, astaghfirullah, لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إني كنت من الظالمين. I forgot that you are alone in control, and things like that. They all fall under those main categories, inshallah. Whatever, so, as long as they increase our iman, as long as they increase our ihsan, it's all fine. When I'm saying istighfar, istighfar is not only astaghfirullah.
Yeah.
So please, everybody take notes, and until we meet again, please write your notes and your observations. And if you find istighfar is done through the tongue and not the heart, pause and renew your intention, or make a note of it and think about it, and we can discuss it more. We are past 10 p.m. and we need to close. So.
And also, if you have a list of people who want to be part of the healing circle and the prayer circle, and maybe you can also tell us news about Saira. I will just end with Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim wa akhiru da'wahum alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'ah warina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinabah. اللهم رب الناس أذهب البأس واشفي أنت الشافي لا شفاء إلا شفاءك شفاء لا يغادر سقما. Oh Lord, oh sustainer of all people, take away pain and give healing, for you are the healer. There is no healing except your healing, a healing that leaves no trace of illness. Ameen walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to read the list of names next time, inshallah. And feel free to send your names if you are not on the newsletter list or the email list. Kindly send your email to our host, Dr. Sarah, Dr. Isra, who is UYAZICIO here. If you go to the participant and it says host, or to Dr. Yamina. Feel free to also go to the website of Receiving Noor and subscribe. You will get newsletters. It's non-commercial, of course, non-profit. And you'll just get notifications of events and webinars and gatherings and conferences and weekly meetings. So also kindly subscribe to the YouTube channel, because it has old, not old, but previous videos of discussions going back to 7 years, I believe. So you might find some of them useful and inspiring. And at this late hour, please feel free to unmute yourself and say salams. We are going to, inshallah, continue with this series on Tuesday at 8. We're taking names for people to pray for, and a quick update on Sister Saira, who had shared her story with us on last week. She had had a very long 9-hour surgery. Alhamdulillah, she is sending salams and she's out. She did the surgery and right now she's in the hospital, for the post-surgery care. So continue to pray for her and for all our loved sick ones. Thank you. Jazakumullah khair. Good night, and feel free to unmute yourself and say salams, and see you next